now.
And we are live, everybody. This is Overtime Live.
Woo!
The Google Plus Hangout, Joe Leyland. Andy Humphrey, this is Jeff Parles here. A lot has happened since the last time we talked to you all. Joe, there's some guy who wore number 6 who changed teams and went home since last time we talked to the folks.
Really? Brandon Rush went home to the Golden State Warriors, but he's going to wear number 4.
Yeah. For people who've been under a rock the last week, LeBron James goes home to Cleveland. I know we're behind. I know we're not too timely. But this is the first time we could get going. So, now, and of course, our friend does not listen. That's the third time I've done that now. That the Google version of this starts playing while we're on air, which is great.
Oh, that is great.
Right into my headphones. But Andy, LeBron goes to Cleveland. Miami ends up. Miami, I thought, did pretty well for itself, ending up with Luol Deng after losing LeBron, and they retained Bosh for a ridiculous amount of money. Obviously, this changes the Eastern Conference. Andy, is Cleveland the favorite now with LeBron?
Is Cleveland the favorite?
Yes.
They've got to be. Because wherever LeBron James is, the team is instantly 15 times better. And they were... This is a younger Cleveland team, however. So I don't know how many of those guys have been to the playoffs, but it's going to be tough to maybe get past to Chicago or Indiana, even with LeBron James, I think.
Joe, what do you... Go ahead, Joe.
Currently, they still are favorites because any team that LeBron's on in the Eastern Conference has been proved in the last 10 years are probably going to win the East unless you have some absurd big three. Yes, Miami made some moves, but it's not going to be enough. The question is, are they good enough to win a championship? And there's no way they are without Kevin Love. They have to go for Love if they want to win this year, and it's going to be how much do you want to risk of LeBron's true prime and give up Wiggins. It's a cool dynamic. We haven't really seen it since Robinson and Duncan were one of the best prospects in the last couple of years. Wiggins, definitely, that was such a bad draft class last year, and we're uncertain about the one next year. And LeBron plays a wing position similar to him, uses athleticism similar to him, obviously infinitely better skill-wise, but from the start, it depends if you want to do it for a 10-year plan or you want to win the most rings now is the Love deal.
I would not make the Love trade.
Really?
Cleveland. No, I wouldn't do it. You're not winning this year even with Kevin Love.
Really?
I don't think you are. I just... The first year of a quote-unquote big three, we saw what happened to Miami. Yes, they got to the finals, but I thought they were superior to Dallas, and they still lost that series. You need a solid full year to get a big three right, year plus, to get a big three right and win a championship.
With the exception of Boston?
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate exception to the rule.
All those players had a great mentality for it.
Yeah, that was the perfect storm because it was Garnett right at the end of his prime. It was Ray Allen right at the end of his prime. It was Paul Pierce getting to the end of his prime. And they knew they had to do it right away. And honestly, they were by far the best team in the NBA. If you put Kevin Love on Cleveland, they're not the best. I wouldn't even say they're the best team in the league.
Would you still say San Antonio or LA?
I would take San Antonio. I would take Oklahoma City. Oklahoma
City is crazy.
You think Oklahoma City over Cleveland is crazy?
I think that's berserk at this point.
Really?
Yeah,
and I'm usually the one who will say Oklahoma City is nowhere near as good, but I think Oklahoma City, they other than Dallas, which to me still makes no sense, that Dallas was the one team that gave San Antonio the hardest problem
By the way, I guarantee we're gonna have once we start to talk Parsons. I think we're gonna have a bet at some point in this year coming up on Dallas.
I think what Dallas has done this offseason, basically replacing Vince Carter with Chandler Parsons, has turned them into a team that should finish in the top 5 in the West. They should be better than Houston.
Really? Oh, there's no question in my mind. Realistically, I think they have I personally believe a top 3 chance to get out of the West. That's probably.
I don't know if I go that far, but for me, the one good thing with this NBA free agency, once LeBron signed, everything has started to move now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We now have clarity where I think, and it's rare in the NBA that I can do this. On July 17th, I think I can make a pretty reasonable playoff predictions in both conferences.
Exactly. I was actually talking to Kyle Norris. I'm going to be coming out with a column for that on KCOU's website soon.
Look at KCOU.FM, everybody. Joe Langland, the new super writer, as Andy Humphrey is probably not too pleased with what happened with his Houston Rockets this offseason.
Nah.
2 steps to go, or 1 step to go, 2 steps forward. Is that the motto?
That was the mindset. You know, this is the one time that Daryl Morey has ever made a miscalculation. Yeah. Declining Parsons looked like a good move at first, and would have been considered a genius move if they were to attract a Chris Bosh or a Carmelo Anthony. Now that they've done neither, he looks like a fool for doing so.
My problem with the offseason is he made kind of 2 different moves. He made the play for the Bosh and the Melo by getting rid of Asik, Lin, and a first-rounder, and that's fine. And even after Melo and Bosh say no, if you still part with those pieces, that's kind of fine. They were awkward pieces in the roster, but then you have to re-sign Parsons back if you do that. That was the only reason why I couldn't justify letting go of Parsons.
Well, I wouldn't say the Lin piece isn't on. I didn't think that Lin should have stayed on the team no matter what the plans were for the offseason for the Rockets this year. Asik is a player that was a very solid backup center to Dwight Howard, a big rebounding machine. He would have wanted to keep if his contract wasn't so high. And the thing is, now with the offseason that they've had, all they really did was replace Parsons with Trevor Ariza, which, by the way, every time that I think about the Trevor Ariza signing, I get more and more excited about it. Because guess what? Trevor Ariza
has had 2 good postseasons. That's been his whole career.
Three-point shooter. He's a better three-point shooter than Parsons. I think he's a better defender than Parsons.
I'll agree with that.
His contract is he's less expensive than Parsons as well. And the fact that he is in a supporting role now with the Rockets, this is actually his second stint. The first to carry the offense, and it didn't work. This time he gets to play with a couple of stars, Dwight Howard and James Harden, and he doesn't have to be that big 15, 20-point-a-night guy that the Rockets were asking him to do back in, I believe it was 2009. So the thing is, Trevor Ariza is coming off a pretty decent year with Washington. Give him a couple of years with this Rockets team, he can be a nice fill-in.
Here's my problem about Ariza. There's 2 times we've really heard about him in his NBA career. First being when he had that fantastic playoffs against the Denver Nuggets. I want to say it was 2006, was it? No, it could be that.
No, that was the year the Lakers won their title with the Magic. It was Kobe's first title without Shaq.
Yeah, it was. So that was 2009.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. That was weird. 2009 was the first time you heard about him. Then he kind of was somewhat irrelevant with his Houston and Washington State in terms of expectations after that postseason. Now he has another great postseason during a contract year, similar to what he did back in LA. So are we sure that he's going to be all right? He's had 2 great postseason series, and that's what's kind of created, I feel, kind of this hype myth for him.
Here's what I'll say here. Houston did the ultimate swing and miss on Bosh. I'm still stunned in a way that Bosch went. Obviously, the contract that the max contract that Bosch gets from Miami is ridiculous. He's not worth that. There's only 3 players in the entire NBA that are worth that type of money. Bosch is obviously not one of them.
Only one player.
Only one? You don't think Durant's worth that money?
I think Durant's worth that.
There's 2.
I think it's LeBron, Durant, and then Chris Paul, and then no one else is even close to worth that.
Not Chris Paul. That hasn't done it in the postseason at all.
But that's what I would do. Those would be the 3 I would give that money to, and I would
continue with the point.
Here's what I'll say. The fact that Houston whiffed on Bosch like the way they did. Andy, who's playing the 4 for them?
Terrence Jones.
Gonna be Terrence Jones again?
Either Terrence Jones or Donatas Motiejunas.
Terrence Jones had a nice year last year, though.
Motiejunas is the interesting one for me, but I don't see him as a 4. I think he's a 5. And you obviously have that locked up with number 12.
He is a very, I would say, below average backup to Dwight Howard.
I wouldn't go that far. I think Motiejunas has the potential to be good, but here's the thing. Houston had the problems last year. They had no depth. They did get Troy Daniels back, who's good for 1 game this past season. But I'll say this. The West is so loaded. And Dwight is such a, I'll say, robust personality that you better start. If Houston better start winning, or you could have Dwight blow, and you could have to blow this thing up in a year or 2. You're at that dangerous point now for Houston. I agree with Andy with Ariz for Houston. I'm okay with Ariz in for Parsons. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. I agree with Andy on Lynn. Beverly's much better at this point. Much better player. But to win in the West, you have to be deep. Look at San Antonio. Look at the Clippers. Heck, even look at the Thunder. They're all deep.
Thunder.
They're all the Thunder are deeper than much deeper than Houston.
I was thinking about this yesterday. Is it crazy to say Houston possibly could not be a playoff team?
I would say that's probably a stretch.
I think it's a stretch. I think they finished at 7 or 8, but Denver made a couple very nice moves this offseason. You'd have to think that a franchise.
Who did they get other than Afflalo?
Huh?
Who did they get other than Afflalo?
Gary Neal. Their worst position last year was the shooting guard. They had no help from Ty Lawson.
Gary Neal's a perennial backup.
You also get Gallinari back. You also have a rejuvenated kind of freedom. I'm just saying pieces there. Phoenix, you'd have to expect to get better given their youth and a couple moves.
Well, that's all key on getting Eric Bledsoe back in the fold.
Exactly. And then the Grizzlies had a nice pickup of Vince Carter, and then once Marc Gasol came back last year, they were a fantastic team and really could have won that Thunder series. Dallas picked up Chandler Parsons. You'd have to think that they finish in the top 8. I think Golden State is still a top 8 team, and then you look at Portland as well. I think is the same category as Golden State.
Hey, listen,
I think Houston's still on it, but it could get scary with the personalities on that team. If they start out bad, as you said, it wouldn't shock me.
Like I said, for the West, and it's always going to be the case. The West is so deep, and you're going to have 19 again. I think the bottom of the West is horrible. I think the Kings are going to be bad again. I think the Lakers are going to be dreadful.
Lakers will be terrible. I think Kings could be a little under. I think the Jazz could make an improvement too.
I think the Jazz will improve, but still miss the playoffs by a reasonable amount.
Minnesota stinks.
Minnesota is going to trade. It should trade Kevin Love to Golden State, but the Warriors are not going to budge. Who am I missing? The Pelicans. They're not a playoff team.
Nice pickup by Asik and got. We don't know about them yet.
If I had to get the West is a little more complicated than the West is complicated, more complicated than the East.
At this point that Anthony Davis isn't a top 10 player based off last year.
I wouldn't go that far, but Anthony Davis is going to be a top 10 player by the end of this year. I'll go with that.
Hopefully Drew Holiday gets under. The West is tricky.
I'll say this. The West is tricky as always. I think the fair bet is for San Antonio to be the number 1 seed.
Yep.
And then you can pick any sort of order you want.
I think LA is a clear cut too.
Involving 1 through 9 from last year, and you'll be all right.
There would be a scenario you pick Memphis over LA. I think LA is a clear cut 2. I think there's more tiers than you.
I wasn't going to pick Memphis. I wasn't going to pick Memphis to be 2. If anything, I pick Oklahoma City to be 2.
Really?
Yeah. Again, when you have the
tiers, I think you go San Antonio's a clear cut 1. LA, OKC, you can interchange 2 or 3. I tend to pick LA over there. Then you have the match, a big mix-up of Portland, Golden State, Houston, Dallas at this point, and then you have the Phoenix, Minnesota, Memphis.
Phoenix and
Memphis. I think I'm missing one more team.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Portland has to prove that this past year wasn't just a one-year blip on the radar. I don't think it is. I don't think it was. I still think they're going to be a perennially good playoff team this year. But they have to prove it was not a blip on the radar. Let's go over to the East, because I think the East is... What was that, Andy?
No, that was me. If you're talking about 1 through 9, we should go to the East and talk.
I know. Well, the East, listen, the East, for me, this year is a heck of a lot more intriguing than the Western Conference. Because I think, unless if San Antonio screws it up, I don't think they can possibly not get back to the finals. I really don't.
Yeah.
So
most likely.
Here's the thing with the East. Am I crazy for thinking that the Pacers could miss the playoffs?
No, but the Hornets who picked up Lance Stevenson,
yes,
I'm going to put above them. I think Hornets finish above the Pacers this year.
Andy, here's what I think with the East. Cleveland's in the playoffs. That's 1. The Wizards are in the playoffs. That's 2. Miami Heat get back to the playoffs. That's 3. Chicago Bulls. That's 4. Toronto Raptors. That's 5. Charlotte is 6. I'm not going in order. I'm just throwing playoff teams out there. Charlotte is 6. And then who am I forgetting that made the playoffs this past year?
Atlanta.
Philly. Oh, wait, no.
Philly's awful.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Philly was terrible.
Atlanta and the Pacers.
This is a bad point
when we're talking Brooklyn. Those are the teams I'm forgetting. I don't think the Pacers are going to miss the playoffs. It's going to still take a lot, but they have done absolutely nothing this offseason.
Worst offseason in basketball.
I don't know if I'll go that far because Oklahoma City hasn't done much of anything either. But Indiana has less talent than Oklahoma City, so that's the bigger problem. Here's what I'll say. The Pacers were an under 500 team the last 2.5 months of the NBA season last year. What gives any of us the inkling to think that the Pacers are not going to be better than about a 43, 42 win team next year?
Go, Jeff. Love it.
In all seriousness.
But I still think even an under 500 team is going to make it to the playoffs in the East.
I don't think so. I think the East has improved enough that I think the worst team to get in this year is going to be at 500 at worst. I really do.
I mean, if you want to look at their lineup, you start up, point guard is George Hill. Somebody that's just too passive. They don't have any really guys outside of Paul George that can create their shot, and nobody that can create anybody else's shot. That was the one thing Stevenson could do on that team that nobody else could do. Shoot on the 2 wings, you'll have Paul George and Evan Turner, correct? Did Evan Turner resign?
Who knows?
He was a disaster there. Paul George is still the one player that I think's received a little too much hate because he's still extremely young. David Weiss is a solid pro. I feel bad for him in this situation. And Hibbert wasn't motivated in the playoffs. Why is he going to be motivated in December going up to Milwaukee and play?
Listen, if Indiana... I don't think Indiana will miss the playoffs. I think when it's all said and done, they'll get in. But you look at the cluster of teams for the 7 and the 8, you have Indiana, you have New York, you have Brooklyn, and you have Atlanta, realistically.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think that I don't think New York's good enough to make the playoffs. I think the roster's terrible, other than Carmelo.
You know the one team that I think could somehow sneak in and be the Suns of this year?
Oh no.
Orlando.
You're about to say Milwaukee?
Orlando. No, not Milwaukee.
I don't see it with the Magic.
I don't think
I don't
it's
see
great.
it.
I think they're a unique kind of young team that could give trouble to some of these older Eastern Conference teams throughout the playoffs, get a decent record, and get some belief going in there.
I don't see it. They don't have enough offense.
I think that in a weird way, if they get out running on the court with Oladipo, Gordon, they have solid bigs that are going to be able to play defense. And in Eastern, what makes Brooklyn so much better?
Oh, listen. If I was picking the East right now, I had Brooklyn out of the playoffs.
With the Knicks in?
No, I have the Hawks in.
Oh, okay.
No, listen. Here's the thing with the Hawks. The Hawks didn't play the whole season without Al Horford.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
He'll come back. They should be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. They should win about 43 games. Atlanta. For me, I think if I had to pick right now, I think Indiana it would be for that 8 seed. It would be Indiana and Brooklyn. Those two teams for the 8.
I don't think Indiana's that bad. I think that's a little too extreme.
Listen, some people are high on Detroit too. I think what Detroit has done this offseason has just been nonsensical.
Yeah,
they're throwing too much money at players who aren't very good. Unless if they can find a way to. Humph obviously found that funny.
Yes, because I picked a Detroit 5 last year at the preseason. Look how that worked out.
I had Cleveland as the 5 last year.
Yeah, I had Cleveland high. I think I had the Pistons making it as like an 8 seed too. With the
I had Detroit just out because I put the Wizards in the playoffs. That proved to be correct. But
so how does this Eastern Conference lay out? Is the funny thing.
Here's what I think. I think when it's all said and done, I think we go back to what we had with LeBron and Cleveland the first time around. I think Cleveland ends up with the best record in the Eastern Conference.
I agree.
I think they end up with the best record in the Eastern Conference. It doesn't mean that they'll get to the finals, but I think they're going to win 63, 64 games right off the bat.
You know who could actually win the regular season Eastern Conference, I think?
Go ahead.
Miami.
Yeah, that wouldn't be crazy.
I think they actually are the second best chance.
The one thing, Joe, with that, I don't think Dwayne Wade plays enough games in order for them to win that many games. That's my one
kind of nuance. I still think Chris Bosh is a fantastic player. That's also the difference between my opinion and most people.
I think Miami, you have.
Go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead, Andy.
In Miami, you've got Chris Bosh, you've got Luol Deng, but after that, you have very below average players. They re-signed Mario Chalmers. I hate that. I thought they should have traded Chalmers during the last season to get something for him, and now they have to sign him to a deal that is ridiculous for him. He is not worthy of that starting position in Miami. Norris Cole, I think, is a better option for them going forward. That's the thing.
You have three.
After that, where's the bench?
Listen, here's the thing. You have Granger, you have McBob. Listen, I think Miami's going to be okay. I really do. You also have Napier.
After that, there's nothing.
I think Napier ends up starting down there. For me, I think Miami's a 45 to 50 win club this upcoming year. I think if you put the over under at about 44.5, that's a fair over under.
Yeah,
I'll take.
And I think that 45 wins is going to be more than enough to get them in the playoffs. I think, Joe, I don't think you're crazy for thinking that they could be the top seed. I just don't think Wade's going to play enough games in order for them to win 55 games, which is what they need.
I agree with that, but one thing that we also had to take out, you look at the point guard position, you have Mario Chalmers, Norris Cole, Shabazz Napier. I wouldn't say shocked, but I'd be surprised if one of those three players, without LeBron James, listen, LeBron James was playing the point guard half the time, so you could not totally be the man at that point guard position. I would be surprised if one of those three isn't a starting caliber point guard this year.
Well, I think Napier is going to be a starting caliber point guard.
I think Norris Cole could too, and you know what? Mario Chalmers, before this, I thought the finals, he just broke his confidence in there, and everybody latched on. He hasn't had a great career, but he's been a starting point guard for a championship team, and that means something. I don't care if you have LeBron on your team. It means something. And then you have Luol Deng, he's still probably a 15-point scorer a game, I'd say.
Deng is the perfect guy to replace. Well, there is no perfect guy to replace LeBron.
I was going to say.
But
Nick Roberts
but for what Miami could have replaced him with, I think Daniel Granger is as good as they probably could get with this crew of off-season people of off-season free agents.
Yeah, I also think that clutch situations, I trust both Wade and Bosch to hit a game-winning shot. Nothing to discredit LeBron with, and he can do it too. But I don't think anything slacks in there.
Here's what I'll say, Joe. I think when this is all said and done in the East, I think you look at Cleveland, you look at the Wizards, you look at Miami, and you look at the Bulls. The Bulls are the wild card here.
Yeah.
Because if Derrick Rose is healthy, and that is a massive if, the Bulls should win the Eastern Conference this year. If Derrick Rose is healthy, Chicago should get to the final.
I think they had one of the best off seasons behind Cleveland.
Their off season was weird because they whiffed on Carmelo, but they got Gasol for a reasonable contract. They got They brought
They drafted Dougie McBuckets.
Mirotic from Real Madrid. I think that's their kind of wild card. Obviously, Derrick Rose is their big wild card.
But Rose is the wild card, Joe.
I'm intrigued more about Mirotic than McDermott. I think we know what McDermott's going to do the first year. I bet you he scores probably 8 or 9 off the bench in the regular season.
Listen, Joe, I think McDermott's going to start.
You do?
I think McDermott's going to start. Yes, I think McDermott's going to start at the 3 for them.
Huh. Yeah. The one problem I also had with their offseason was the money they gave to Gasol. I think they would have been a lot better suited if they went out and got Lance Stevenson.
I disagree with you on, because I think Stevenson would go there, play hero ball, and now it's not the Lance Stevenson you want. For them, I'm perfect. For them, Jimmy Butler's perfectly fine at the 2. He's perfectly fine.
He does. They still lack to create a shot, and that's what Stevenson can do. He's an underrated playmaker, and when Derrick Rose is out, listen, we said it's a big if, and what if it's the other side of the if, and he doesn't play?
And if he doesn't play, they'll finish with about 48 wins when they should win about 35, and they'll either win a playoff series against the 5 seed or go out in the first round like they did this year.
Gasol does not come near. Gasol, I bet you, is a bum for them if Rose gets injured. The only chance
I disagree with you on that. I think Gasol can still play.
Gasol can still offer something offensively in my book.
And the thing is, Gasol's not going to play. Thibodeau does play his guys too many minutes. He does.
Yeah.
I think Gasol's going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum and not play too many minutes because he's going to overplay Taj Gibson off the bench.
But I don't get what are you adding with Gasol when you get rid of Boozer? They're both.
You're adding a much better offensive player than Boozer.
I think it's different though. They're different games. I don't think Gasol can put up the ball as much as he used to be able to. So scoring wise, they're better. Gasol, a much better passer. I will obviously.
Great passer. Great passing.
Great passer. But Taj Gibson is your most promising young player. So why do you keep bringing on power forwards and limiting his minutes?
It's not true on that. I think when you're all said and done, I think Gibson's going to end up playing 35 minutes a game anyway.
And then you take out Noah or Gasol?
You can go with Noah for 38, Gibson for 35, and Gasol for 25, and that works out.
Yeah.
Gasol's not going to play more than a little bit more than half the game, or at least he shouldn't at this point.
Versatility on this team. If you also got out and went out and go get a guard, you could play McDermott at a stretch 4.
You could, but McDermott for me, if I was Chicago, I wouldn't start McDermott. I'd bring him off the bench. I think McDermott has no position.
I bet you Thibodeau starts him off the bench to begin with, at the very least.
Well, then he's going to start Mirotic at the 3 at the beginning of the year?
No. That's the problem. I don't like the versatility.
You don't have DJ Augustine anymore. He left.
You have no versatility in the backcourt, and that's what's their problem then when they lost Derrick Rose.
Wow, the phrase that I just uttered, you lost DJ Augustine.
Man, that's what had to get me thinking a little bit. I was like, wow, you're worried about that?
No, but listen, Augustine was great for them last year. Oh, wait a second. McGrady retired from baseball?
Yes, I was about to bring that up. McGrady retired from the game of baseball.
McGrady retires after striking out first batter.
Apparently he made it to the Atlantic League All-Star game.
Wait, what?
He made it to the Atlantic League All-Star.
No, he was voted into the Atlantic
Fan
League.
voting. Fan voting.
His ERA was 7.
Yikes.
I read that he made an appearance in the Atlantic League All-Star game.
Yes, he started the game.
Because you got to have at least one representative, I'm sure. Yeah.
What a shame.
Man.
And McGrady hitting the
home. Actually, we
we
signed a guy. Hey, funny story, guys. We actually signed a guy from the Sugarland Skeeters back in mid-June, and I was talking to this guy. He's from Venezuela. He's a 33-year-old veteran. Came out of retirement to play this year, as most people on the Skeeters usually, do because they want to keep playing. So we signed him, and I asked him, how's McGrady as a teammate? He was like, he was a humble guy, and I was like, wow, really, you liked him? And he was like, yeah, he was cool. And I'm like, oh man, I thought he would have been a distraction, but.
Well, you know what? That family that McGrady comes from, Vince Carter's his cousin.
Yeah.
And Carter is. I've met Vince Carter multiple times. Vince Carter is easily the most humble athlete I've ever had the privilege to meet, professional or college. And that
is Hall of Famer at this point?
Who, Vince Carter? No way. Not for me.
Really?
Not a Hall of Famer. Neither is McGrady. Neither of them are Hall of Famers.
McGrady's not a Hall of Famer, no.
McGrady's not. Vince Carter, how long has this guy been doing it for?
Yeah, but Joe, Carter was a top 5 NBA. For me, you got to be top 5, top 10 for more than half of your career. I don't think Carter was that for more than half of his career.
All right, well, I have a little different criteria, but my thought process is he takes Allen Iverson to the ropes in his Allen Iverson's best career ever. And
he should. If he makes that shot, the Raptors are in the finals that year too.
And getting swept by LA. Then
they would have got a game.
Then that was kind of
that was pre Drake's existence. They might have won something then.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have that, and he was killer on the Raptors. Then he made 3 straight finals with the Nets? If I'm
no, he was
no.
No, he was there after the Nets made their 2 straight finals.
Oh, really? So it was just Richard Jefferson and Jason Kidd on that team?
It was Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, and Richard Jefferson. That's why for me, Jason Kidd's obviously I was born in '93, so I never saw Magic Johnson play. I never saw Isaiah play. I never saw all those great point guards play. Jason Kidd is the greatest point guard I have ever seen play with my own 2 eyes in person.
Nash.
I'll take Kidd any day of the week.
I'll take Kidd over Nash.
I'm very happy. Listen, Steve Nash's 2 MVPs both of them were ridiculous.
There's no wrong answer in this one, in my opinion. But just give Nash for.
I'll take Kidd. You like the Flash, Joe. I know that.
I love the Flash plus the toughness. Not to say Jason Kidd wasn't tough, but Steve Nash was the toughest guy during those 2 MVP years.
Hey, Vince Carter can end up playing for 6 NBA teams. That's kind of surprising, including his forgotten year. Wow. That one year he was in Phoenix. I forgot he was in Phoenix.
I never knew he was in.
No, he was traded to Phoenix. This is when Orlando traded. This was the great trade where they traded back to get Hedo Turkoglu back. They traded Vince Carter, Gortat, and Petrus, and a first-round pick for Turkoglu, Jason Richardson, and Oral Clark. That's a terrible trade by Orlando.
That's a who we play for right there.
Oh my God, that's a horrible trade
Richardson
for Orlando.
Is probably on a lot of those rosters.
That's a really bad trade.
We should have played who we play for then. For the Suns that year, we would have gotten stumped with the Vince Carter.
I forgot that Carter played there, but you know what? Actually, that's when he changed his number over to 25 for the first time.
There you go.
Oh, by the way, LeBron's going to wear 32 in
32,
which is great for me since that was my number back in the day. So
stop it.
So I'll take credit for that. I finally knew what I was doing.
Trendsetter.
Yeah, exactly.
You had 3 tries.
Hey, I have the old Allendale basketball jersey somewhere in this room, so.
Oh man.
Back in the glory days. How long have we been going so far, Mr. Humph?
Looks like 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well actually so far. Yeah, we've been going about officially 38 minutes according to the count here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
We haven't even talked about baseball yet.
Anything but basketball.
Which is a good sign. Before we go, July 17th, obviously subject to change. I'm going to pick San Antonio to beat Cleveland in the finals on my way too early predictions.
I concur.
Andy, are you gonna agree with that?
Agree with it?
No. Yeah,
No.
or whatever.
No, of course not.
On your way too early picks for next year.
Way too early picks.
What a throwback that's going to be if that's the finals.
Here's my way prediction. Oklahoma City over Cleveland.
Oh, look at that. Humph gets Durant finally getting his ring.
Yeah.
I like it, Humph. I like it.
That's my way too early. I like to go far and beyond on my wits.
Way too early, way too bold. I like it.
Yeah. Well, who cares? No one's going to remember this in May of 2015.
Oh, I will. I will, Humph. If Oklahoma City does not win the title next year, I'm going to call you out for it.
Oh, okay. You going to call me out when the Astros don't win 70 this year?
I think they're going to.
Exactly.
At this point, I think they're going to. Let's switch over to baseball real quickly. All-Star game on Tuesday. Adam Wainwright threw Derek Jeter a cookie. By the way, a banner day for the Cardinals in the All-Star game. Mike Matheny didn't realize he had subs until the 6th inning. And the Cardinal pitchers gave up all 5 runs in the American League's 5-3 victory. Joe, let's start with this. A lot of nonsense over the All-Star game. Wainwright's ridiculous comments. Fox's lack of mention of Tony Gwynn and other great major leaguers who passed away this past year. What was the biggest fiasco to do with the All-Star game this year?
I thought the Gwynn thing was very interesting. Because it was so recent, too. I mean, realistically, the number one thing we're going to remember from this All-Star game is Derek Jeter's last game. I didn't think it was as fiasco as everybody else said. I was watching with Cardinal fans, so it was fun to see Cardinal pitchers get rocked. But that's what I'll remember, Jeter.
Humph, you didn't watch the All-Star game, so we're not even going to ask you your opinion on that.
I found an excuse.
What's
found
the
an excuse to not watch it. Call myself here at good old Quick Trip Park.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll say this. The Wainwright thing was moronic, so who cares?
Pipe ball gate?
Yeah, it's stupid. Stupid. A pipe shot.
Pipe shot gate.
Yeah, just dumb. Just dumb. And listen, Wainwright deserved to get called out for saying something that's stupid. And he wasn't joking. Wainwright doesn't joke. He's no sense of humor. None. It's just stupid. Don't say stupid things. That's one. 2, you'll remember this All-Star game. I'll remember 2 things from this All-Star game.
Okay.
1 is it's Jeter's final All-Star game.
Yeah.
And 2, we were reminded that Minnesota is a great baseball place.
It's a great park.
Yeah.
The new park is awesome.
We were reminded of it because the Twins have been down now for a few years. And they're going nowhere again this year. But that is a great baseball city.
And a team that's not necessarily on the rise right now, but great minor leagues, which is great.
2 years away. They're 2 years away from being...
Yeah, and that was a great point you made, because in the early to mid-2000s, this was one of the best clubs in baseball.
Well, and remember when they wanted to contract back in the early 2000s? Teams on the list were the Expos and the Twins. The fact that the Twins were one of those teams on that list, especially after seeing what they did for a few years also with the new ballpark at Target Field, And the Twins were been bad since the Yankees pounded them into submission back in, was that 2010? Had to have been.
Yeah.
I think it was 2010 was the last year that the Twins made. Yeah, it was 2010. The Twins got pounded by the Yankees. And everyone has forgotten that this is a great baseball market.
Yeah.
They sold out up until through 2011. They were bad. 2012 they were very bad as well. They were number 3. I believe they were top 5 in attendance both of those years, and they were teams that were winning 68 games. They were bad teams.
Just to highlight your point, I thought it was special when Morneau came out for Home Run Derby.
Yes, it was.
I thought that was a good moment.
I also thought the Perkins and Suzuki again. How diluted is the game of baseball at this point? If Kurt Suzuki is an all-star,
Hey, pride! Oakland A's old catcher. When the A's 3 years ago were like that, just the worst team in baseball, Kurt Suzuki was their player that they put on every promotion, all the commercials.
But he's not
He
good.
leaves, becomes an all-star, and the A's, and once he leaves, the A's become the best team in baseball. I don't get it.
I don't get why. Kurt Suzuki is an all-star.
That was my favorite all-star selection.
I think Kurt Suzuki was the most ridiculous all-star this year. Josh Harrison's a close second.
Yeah.
But regardless, AL has home field again. Everyone will continue to have this debate as long as the All-Star game is the reason for home field advantage. When will MLB just realize give it to the team with a better record?
Do you want to hear my kind of idea I came up over the weekend?
I'm sure it's brilliant. Go ahead.
All right. So first of all, I liked the home run derby change.
That was terrible too.
It was a lot better. I liked it.
It was longer than it was last year. That plan was to shorten it, and they made it longer.
I thought it was more intense. I
thought it was crappy, but go ahead.
1 point to the winner who wins out of that AL-NL final matchup. Figure out some pitching competition that you can do, kind of like how you have a slam dunk and a three contest. Give a point to whoever wins that out of the AL-NL, and that's kind of a mano-a-mano thing. And then the next day, you play, hopefully it's tied 1-1. That's best case scenario, and play for home field as a game. If you insist on doing that, I think that would be a cool little tweak.
Okay, but then if somebody wins, if one wins both, then the game means even less now.
Yeah, I kind of just figured that loophole.
So let's say you're taking that risk, and then all of a sudden you're there for nothing, and the All-Star game becomes less of a story.
I feel like they're already there for... It's a stupid rule in general to have. It'd be a home field advantage.
Well,
just make it go to the team with the better record. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. Predictions, second half Major League Baseball. We haven't even gotten to the World Cup, the quarterfinals and on. We'll get to that in a minute. Predictions for the second half. Anything funky, guys?
David Price ends up somewhere else. I think St. Louis. I think David Price ends up in St. Louis. If that happens, St. Louis has the deadliest team in the playoffs if they make it and survive without Yachty, which I think they do. LA is the best ball club in the NL right now. Oakland in the AL.
Andy?
Kansas City makes the playoffs.
You're on the Kansas City making the playoff train.
I am on the Kansas City playoff bandwagon.
Here's what I'll say.
3 AL West teams make the playoffs. That's my overall prediction.
Yes, I'm with Joe on that. I think when it's all said and done, I think the Mariners do get that second wild card. The two best teams in the major leagues will reside in the AL West record-wise by the end of the year. I think both of those teams, the A's and the Angels, are both going to win 96+.
I think the Dodgers win up there too.
I don't think any team in the NL can end up with more than 95 this year. I think the NL is going to be a very interesting race. You have 8 teams bunched very closely together at the moment. I think when it's all said and done, I think the top 6 or 7 in the National League will all be within 4 games of each other. I think Pittsburgh is going to have a hard time hanging in there, and I think the Reds will hang in there, but will be that last team of the 7. But
So wait, what's your 7 then?
Washington, Atlanta, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Cincy. Well, actually, wait a second. Did I? Yeah, and San Francisco, LA. I think Cincy will end up being the 7th team, but they think they'll be the furthest away.
So you have 6 teams making the playoffs then?
No, I have 5 making the playoffs, but I think the top 7 are all going to be within 4 games of each other.
Okay.
My 5 making the playoffs, I think Atlanta's the odd team out. Washington, St. Louis, Milwaukee, LA, and San Francisco get in.
I think you don't see either Washington or Milwaukee. I think Atlanta wins the East, St. Louis wins the Central, Washington gets in and plays San Francisco on the wild card.
I think the Nats are the team that has a chance to really, really ratchet everything up. They have the best run differential in the NL right now. They're finally healthy. I think they have a chance to really, really ratchet the heat up, and I think they can run away with the NL East. I just don't think the Braves are really that good this year. I just don't. I don't think they're that good. But they played over their heads again. With a plus 12 run differential, 9 games over 500, that's not going to hold up for a whole year. I think they end up. They still end up winning 90, but I think they end up on the wrong side of the playoff bubble.
All right. AL side or Hunt NL?
AL side. Listen, if I'm picking the World Series today, I'm picking the Nationals to beat the A's in the World Series. That's what I'm picking.
Wow.
What?
It's bold.
I'm sticking with the Nats from the beginning of the year.
All right.
So, I already failed with picking the Rangers to make the World Series. So,
yeah, worst team in baseball there.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised that they're as awful as they are, but they're really bad. They are really terrible this year.
They just lost so many guys to the DL. So many.
And when you have,
they're suffering just like the Yankees are.
Well, no, they're more snake bitten than the Yankees are. One other thing, I think the Yankees end up in 4th place in the AL East when everything's all said and done. I think Tampa ends up.
Boston?
No, I think Tampa ends up finishing 2nd, honestly.
So you don't think they trade Price?
No, I think Price stays put.
Okay. World Series prediction. I'm gonna go with my preseason one as well, with Oakland over Los Angeles still.
Staying with the A's from the preseason.
I had A's over Dodgers in the preseason. Sticking with it.
Humph, are you sticking with your preseason pick?
Did I even make a preseason pick? I don't even know.
Everybody made a preseason pick. I just don't remember what yours was. All I know is
really? I made one?
Yes, you had to have.
Okay, I didn't write it down. Oh, you know what? Give me the A's over the Giants.
Oh, you're going Bay Area.
Yeah, I'm going Bay Area.
Oh, so regardless of who wins that, Joe Leyland will.
Joe Leyland's head will explode.
Joe Leyland will be happy regardless of result.
There we go.
No, the front runner himself replacing Julian Douglas as King front runner if that happens.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be a great series. I agree, Hump. Hump, be psychic, hopefully.
There we go. That's it. I'll wait about 3 more years to pick the Astros as the World Series champs.
Are you ready for the Astros and the Cubs in 2018?
2017.
2018.
2017. There we go.
2017 will be the Astros and the Mets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll get some revenge for '86. How about that?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. This time in the Fall Classic.
Oh God. World Cup concluded on Sunday. Germany defeated Argentina in extra time 1-0. Andy, I don't want to talk about the final. I want to talk about what the hell happened to Brazil over those last 2 games. Can you make sense of any of what happened in the semis against Germany, especially over that 15-minute stretch, and what happened against Holland in the third place game?
Oh man. All I remember is that I had one of the tweets of the day. I was like, "Is Frank Haith coaching Brazil right now?" And I was like, raising my fist high, feel good about that. It did seem that way, and it was all about the coaching. They were not mentally prepared.
So you're blaming the coaching over the players on this.
Well, the players definitely have a lot to do with it. I think Thiago Silva not being there is a bigger loss than Neymar in a game like that, because you lose your mental leader.
It's the combination of both. You lose your best tactical defensive leader in the back four, because Julio Cesar cannot organize a back four. We've been able to tell since last World Cup. So you lose that with the combination of the most electric, fast, creative player that creates your whole offense. I still think pre-injury Neymar was the best player in this tournament. I think that losing him when you're already in such an emotional way, and the degree of injury too, it's not that you're hearing your best player kind of strained his groin and he's out for 4 weeks. He broke his vertebrae.
And he would have played in the final. No, not really. But honestly, Andy, I'm a soccer novice, so I'm gonna say what I think, and tell me if I'm somewhat on base here on why Neymar being out of that semifinal and third place game really was why everything fell apart. When you have a guy like that, the other team's midfielders have to stay back and basically almost play like a spy. You have two mids spying Neymar, almost like Germany did with Messi in the final. With Neymar out, Brazil really, honestly, has no world-class threat, especially at the striker position. Oscar I know is a great player, but without Neymar,
at that point it's lost.
He was pretty well shut down.
And you saw how free and easy Cruz, Khedira, and Schweinsteiger all played in that game. When those three central midfielders can kind of play without any defensive worry, they push forward in numbers. And what you're kind of saying that one is, when you lose your best offense, soccer, with the exception of football, I would say the cliche offense is your best defense is the biggest strategy. I mean, you look at Spain, we argue that they're the greatest international team. They had one of the best defense, not just because of their back four and Casillas being a world-class goalie, but they had the ball 70-75% of the game. And there was just the ball was in Germany's or the Brazil half the whole game.
Andy, am I crazy for thinking what I'm thinking now?
You're not crazy, but I think more of the problem with Brazil was their inability to keep the ball in the midfield. Their midfielders in this World Cup, every single game they underperformed. Hulk was non-existent.
Oh, Hulk was terrible.
Was non-existent. Every one of the other players that makes big contributions to the team before the World Cup did not do so here in this month or so that they were playing. It was utter underperformance from everybody else on this Brazil team, with the exception of Julio Cesar in that one game against Chile.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, where he just had an out-of-body experience there, and they move on to the quarterfinals, a game that they really, in some ways or fashions, didn't really deserve to win. You were right about Chile all along, Jeff. They really took it to Brazil there, and they were able to, find themselves in that shootout to move on. So you could argue that Brazil could have avoided that embarrassment against Germany by being knocked out in the round of 16.
Yeah,
we would be talking even more about their inability to just not done at their home. In their home, I think it's It's been an all-around disaster for this team, I think.
That Chile game still hurts because, for me, we could have seen yes, seeing Brazil get whacked like that by Germany was easily the most entertaining thing that I could actually not easily, but it was easily one of the 5 most entertaining things I've seen in sport the entire year, easily. But
I loved it too. It was great.
With that said, if Chile beats Brazil, Chile Colombia in the quarters. You're telling me that wouldn't have been better than that Brazil-Colombia game?
That's going absurd. That Brazil-Colombia game was a fantastic game.
It was.
People are going too far. I'm sorry. The Brazil hate has gone.
I think if we have Chile-Colombia, Colombia moves on, and we have a much better semifinal.
I think Colombia could have beat Germany. I really still think that. I still think Colombia could have beat Germany. I think they could have. I don't think they would have beat Argentina, but I think Colombia could have beat Germany. They could have.
I think Love's good. If you're saying that Brazil wins, that more impressive then.
Listen, I think Brazil played their Brazil played their only good game in the tournament against Colombia. They played very well that night. That I'm not arguing.
I thought they played well against Croatia, and people are just startled because this Chile team was better than we thought.
Well, you weren't paying attention if you didn't realize that Chile team was good.
Well, yes, but nobody else is talking about that. We're talking about how Brazil got killed 7-1 in the semifinals, and yes, that's disastrous. But if you want to talk about the worst-case scenario that can happen to a team, you say, you know what? Go play Germany, Brazil, and we're just going to take Neymar, and we're just going to take Thiago Silva, and go do you.
Yeah, but you don't lose 7-1.
They got dealt the worst cards possible. That's like going 2-7 offsuit in poker against pocket aces and going all in. You know what? We have to. It's the semifinal.
Joe, I'm assuming you have played poker the last few days. Is the reason for that analogy?
I actually won $80.
Don't go against Jeff Parles in his poker streak right now.
What poker streak? I lost last time. No, I nearly went. I woke up too late today in order to go. I was going to considering going to play some roulette and then following that up with some blackjack, but I did not. I still have my money. So. That's the one problem with having a casino 20 minutes away from here now. Big problem. But now, Andy, Nate Silver in 538 came out with a I wouldn't say study, but one of their stories right after the World Cup that says Germany was the greatest World Cup champion of all time. What are your thoughts on that, Joe? I see what your reaction to that. Hold your thoughts there. Andy, go on ahead.
No, Joe, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Joe, go ahead.
I don't think there's a single chance that you can even argue that this team is comparable to the Spain team we saw 4 years ago. I still think that they lacked a true striker. Mueller was fantastic this tournament. If you added Marco Reus, then yes. Their depth was what made their team not look amazing. They were an amazing team. There's no question about that. They also lacked pace in their back four. Boateng, I thought, was their best player in the final. Played fantastic. You saw him again in the earlier part of the tournament against Algeria when Mertesacker was in the game. There were matchup problems in the back, kind of weaker on the left side. This was a fantastic team. They never played an elite team, so we don't know. But
Argentina was an elite team, Joe.
Really? Because did you watch their teams in the second half after Lavezzi went off?
Listen.
Argentina was elite.
Argentina was an elite team. Now, for me,
Aguero played like he should not be in the Premier League. Higuain looked like he was 35 years old at least.
Higuain had one taken off the board, though.
Yeah, but he was offsides. Fairness.
Yeah, no, he was offsides. I'm not arguing that.
Let's put it this way. You can't tell me it's an elite team when Higuain misses that one-on-one with Neuer that's given to him by Schweinsteiger's head.
Oh, that was a bunny that he should have buried.
That should have been buried. But listen, here's the thing. I think this German team is much better than 2010 Spain.
Really?
Because they're different. They're different teams.
They are. That's true.
They're very different teams. That Spain team, looking back at this tournament, and I think the champion can dictate how great a tournament is. The German team, they may not have been better than that Spain team in 2010. They were more fun to watch than that Spain team ever hoped to be.
100%. That Spain team was boring to watch.
That Spain team, 2010 was a fine World Cup. This World Cup, after watching this World Cup, you have an argument to say that this is the greatest World Cup of all time.
Yes, got robbed by Neymar's injury, but it was up there.
Well, Neymar's injury produced one of the most stunning results in the history of FIFA, though.
Still think we got robbed of a star.
I know you can say that all you want, but I think Andy will agree with me on this. Neymar's injury led to the most shocking result in the history of the World Cup.
Fair enough.
So
it was one factor. It was one factor. I still think they would have lost to Germany even with Neymar.
No, I think they would have lost 2, but they wouldn't have lost 7-1.
That's true.
It could have been 3-1. Listen, Andy,
3-1's
a hell of a lot different than 7-1.
Yeah.
Even 3-0 is a lot different than 7-1.
True, but embarrassing.
Brazil doesn't lose 7-1 in that game.
It's very embarrassing for Brazil if they lose 3-1.
And Neymar plays. Brazil probably beats the Dutch in the third place game.
Neymar plays. I think there still is a possibility if both Neymar and Thiago Silva in that game. This World Cup, we could very well see Germany not as the champions. I'm not saying it is the case. Could have happened.
And Brazil would have been the worst champion in the history of the tournament then.
I mean, here's back to Germany being one of the best teams ever. I don't think that they are this super improved team from 4 years ago either. You look at their roster, it's a very similar core. You have Neuer as your keeper, who is your anchor of your defense. Philipp Lahm is your captain. Schweinsteiger and Khedira are your 2 holding midfielders. You have Klose up top. It's a very similar core to a team that got beat by this Spanish team multiple times, and that's why I do not think the two are comparable. Because Götze, yes, he had the goal that won them the tournament, but he did not live, if we're talking from the group stage to the championship, he did not have a great tournament. Royce was injured. Hummels played fantastic. He was their greatest new star, I think. And after that, it was similar, I thought.
One thing I will say, who gave Germany the hardest time in this tournament other than Argentina?
Ghana.
No. What are you guys talking about? Right continent, wrong team.
Ghana. Algeria?
No. What are you talking about?
I still think
it was Ghana.
No, you're saying. I know you're saying Algeria, Jeff. I still think Ghana.
I thought Algeria. Listen, Algeria should have beat them.
Ghana should have beat them.
Algeria should. Well, again, for me, the group they would have won the group anyway, even if they lost that game to Ghana.
Jeff, I do see what you're saying, but do you ever think Algeria would have put one in?
They did put one in.
Another one though, in extra time when they were
No, I'm not talking about that. They had one earlier in the match that was called offsides, and it was pretty damn close to being the wrong call.
I still think Ghana gave them a tougher. Let's put it this way: both teams, those were their 2 toughest games.
The 2 toughest games were I would say the final was just as tough as Ghana, but listen, the one thing also, and Andy, I'm going to ask you this question about and totally change the subject here, because the African teams now, have we reached the point where an African team is finally going to make the semifinals in one of these next 2 World Cups?
No, we haven't.
Even
Not
though
the semifinals.
What? Not the
semifinals. Oh, I think that's too much.
From 4 years ago. I mean, Ghana should have
close against Uruguay. Obviously, Suarez with the handball at the net, and then Gian missed the penalty kick that followed.
It's gonna take one of these African teams next 4 years to rank themselves really high going into the next World Cup, and the only way I see it is if somehow one of these African nations makes it into pot one, into the World Cup draw, and gets the highest seed, and gives himself a favorable group that they can win. But right now, I don't see any team right now. If you had to ask me who's the closest, I would say Nigeria.
I'd say Ghana still.
I would go Nigeria or Ivory Coast.
Well, Ivory Coast now has had 3 straight years of total heartbreak in the group stage. Let's switch the question here. What about CONCACAF getting a team in the semifinals for the first time since the first World Cup?
That's the thing. If you asked me this question 4 years ago, I would have said Africa after Ghana's performance. You still figured Ivory Coast had something. Now it looks like the next team that has a chance to win, or the next continent that has a chance to win the World Cup is CONCACAF. I think Mexico has the brightest future out of the 3 teams that kind of made an impact this tournament.
Andy, where did you go?
Talking about Charger in.
Oh. So Joe thinks Andy, CONCACAF now, you had 3 teams of the 4 that made the tournament. You had 3 make the round of 16. You have Costa Rica in the quarterfinals, and were a few penalty kicks away from being in the semifinals, where I'm not too sure that they could not have beaten Argentina, to be totally honest. But Andy, do you think, to go back to the African teams versus CONCACAF, which one is closer now to having that semifinalist?
Who makes it first?
Who makes in these next 2 World Cups? Which one of those 2 federations is going to have the better chance to get a team in the semis?
Well, they each have 4 teams in the field, right?
I believe Africa has 5.
Doesn't Africa only have 4 spots?
I believe they have 5.
Ivory Coast, Ghana.
Because
did I say Nigeria, Ghana?
Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Algeria, Ghana, and Cameroon. They had 5.
Wow. More than CONCACAF. That's surprising.
CONCACAF gets 3.5.
So, well, they get 4. Well, yeah, 3.5, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense there.
Well, they have to play off against South America. It could very easily be 3. Even though I believe the next World Cup, the CONCACAF playoff will be against Asia's 5th place team.
Gotcha. I think that's what it was. No, it wasn't that this year.
They played Oceania. They played New Zealand. They got
New Zealand this year. Okay. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Right, the United States is the closest, I think, to being one of the dominant teams in the world out of those CONCACAF nations and the African nations.
You have the United States ahead of Mexico at this point.
I do. I do have them ahead of Mexico. Just based off of even Mexico barely got in and had one of the best performances that you can have at a World Cup. But I still think it's the United States that is the dominant team in CONCACAF right now. They haven't lost to Mexico in over a year and a half, I'm pretty sure now. And they finished first in the CONCACAF hexagonal for qualifying. And I think you give this youth academy 4 more, develop some new players. You're going to get young talents from Major League Soccer getting more involved in the selection process for Jurgen Klinsmann. So you're going to have a lot more options to bring to Russia in 2018. Who knows how Julian Green's going to work out? I mean, that definitely looked really exciting in that quarterfinal, or I'm sorry, round of 16 game against Belgium when he scored that goal. You know, you automatically get more thrilled about what he can do as a 23-year-old in Russia. So I think it's the United States right now that is the closest to breaking through to to that realm of possibility as far as CONCACAF and African nations are concerned. Africa had a good showing in this World Cup, and so did CONCACAF. Right now, I think it's the United States.
The one question I have for you, Andy, though, can you envision the U.S. actually having an easier draw than they had once they got to the round of 16 than they did this year? Because you look at how the right side of the bracket played out, they faced the best game that anyone put together on that side of the bracket in the round of 16. And if Wando doesn't miss the net by 10 miles, the U.S. would have made. Well, actually,
that is an exaggeration.
The
best game on that half of the draw.
I thought that was.
So you're
I think the United States plays very.
Argentina was an elite team, and that Belgium piece the best game, and they beat.
I thought Belgium's individual game against the U.S. was the best game we saw on the right side of the draw.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were the best team, because they weren't. But that individual game, listen, Joe, if you're not playing Tim Howard that day, Belgium wins that game 4-0 in regulation. Let's be real. It would have been 4-0.
Yes.
They lacked until they brought on Lukaku. They lacked a killer instinct.
Yeah, but
they
again,
had all those chances.
Some of the saves Howard was making, they would. Do you think other than honestly, from what I saw in this World Cup,
I mean, you could argue just.
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, I would argue that the Costa Rica game was that defensive performance that they put on against the Dutch. You could argue that was just as great of a performance, almost as what Tim Howard put on. And I think that there's more firepower on the Dutch team than the Belgium team. I think we're going a little too optimistic. It was a great step towards the future, but this World Cup, more than ever, I thought it was more evident that there's a huge drop off in talent.
Well, yeah, I think that's obvious, Joe.
There was nothing new about this tournament, and that's why I failed to put the United States over a team like Mexico, a team like Ghana. I would say that they would have to be third outside of the European, South American dominance.
Here's what I'll say. I think I disagree with you guys on the African nations. I think Algeria is the closest now.
Algeria doesn't have enough youth, and they don't have enough.
Algeria's going to have most of the roster back in 4 years.
Again, Ghana has the best youth system, and that's why they're consistently there. I think that they're always going to be solidified.
We'll see what happens, because Ghana should have been in the semifinals back in 2010.
Yeah,
they should have been there. They would have lost to the Dutch. They would have lost to the Dutch, but
the thing that I'll say about it. The thing that I will say about this is that the United States has. They actually, if y'all looked at the news lately, the new FIFA rankings, they actually dropped a couple of spots after this World Cup. I think they're now 15 or 16.
They're 15.
Wow.
Dude, Andy, the FIFA rankings are ridiculous because Bosnia got eliminated in the first round and moved up 3 slots. Algeria dropped 4 slots.
But this is what I wasn't finished with the thing that I was saying. Basically, what has to happen is the United States needs to put themselves in a better position to get a better draw in this next World Cup. I think they absolutely have a great chance to improve. They have a great shot to win the Gold Cup. They have a great shot to perform well in the Olympics for their under-23 squad. If they get themselves in pot 1 and they get a favorable draw in the next World Cup, they will find themselves in the quarterfinals at least next season.
And they have to finish. Here's the problem with that. Do you think they're capable of getting up to number 7? That's what they realistically have to do. I don't think they have enough talent.
I think it can happen.
They have
you get a Gold Cup. In fact, you get 2 Gold Cups. You do well in the Confederations Cup. You build that momentum. A lot of people say that the time before the World Cup is much more than the actual World Cup itself.
Experts in Europe are really focused on the Gold Cup when these other European teams get perform in the Euro Cup.
The one thing, Andy, for me, here's
guess
why.
What? Spain Spain is going to be dropping down. Portugal is possibly going to drop down.
I think
There's other nations up there like Switzerland.
Do you think there's a realistic
other nations?
Do you think there's a realistic scenario 4 years from now?
Opportunity to get there.
That Spain is ranked behind the United States. I don't think there is a chance.
I think that's more. I think that's more plausible than you're giving thinking towards, Joe. Just because of the amount of good teams in Europe.
Because of DeAndre Yedlin coming up? Is that the reason?
No, again, Joe.
No.
Joe, you have to think of it this way. You have to think of it this way, though, Joe. It's going to be easier for the U.S. to stack up points in the rankings than it is for Spain, just because if Spain, let's say Spain goes in a cold spell for a year or two.
Yeah.
You're losing a lot of games over in UEFA if you go in a cold spell. Teams are too good over there. If you go in a cold spell in CONCACAF, there's only 2 other teams that you can possibly lose to.
Yeah, but that's fine, but that's also the problem.
I understand that, but what Andy's trying to say is Andy's goal is to get U.S. in pot 1.
Yeah, and that's fair. I just don't think that is realistically logical when you look. If we're talking about the top 7 teams, I don't think there's a chance that they finish above Germany, Spain, Italy, France, Belgium.
I disagree
Colombia,
with you.
Uruguay, Brazil. That's 9 teams right there that I don't think there's really a shot at.
Here you go. Germany will forever be ranked ahead. Belgium this time around is going to be ranked ahead.
4 years from now, yes.
That's 2. Dutch are a question mark. You have no idea what their roster is going to do over 4 years.
I would not put them guaranteed ahead of them. No.
I wouldn't guarantee that either.
I would guarantee France.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
Especially with Euro Cups being with the young roster they have.
First off, the 2016 Euro Cup UEFA tournament is in France. That's a golden opportunity for France to steal a tournament that they might necessarily not have won if it's held elsewhere.
Young talent plus Euros in 2 years, I don't think there's a chance. I still don't think there's a chance with Spain. They still have enough players that are talent, and they have
I think, Joe, I agree with you. I think when it's all said and done, I don't think the U.S. will get any higher than about 10 in the entire world. That's probably their ceiling.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, the U.S. should still try to perform well because there's always the chance that FIFA is going to switch up the rules once again right before the FIFA World Cup draw.
Fair enough.
Well, you realize that if the U.S. happens to be in the top 7 when that happens, they will switch it up. You know that.
Exactly. They'll do whatever they can to keep the United States out of pot 1.
No,
but I'm just saying.
Well, the one thing is England did end up in pot 1 in back-to-back World Cups, though, and Sepp doesn't like them either.
No.
Well, it'll be. Listen, 4 years, a long time from now. First step, obviously, U.S. just has to get themselves back into the tournament. I don't think that should be a problem.
No.
Anymore.
You're
at a point now in U.S. soccer that if you ever miss the World Cup again, it is an epically massive failure. If you somehow miss the World Cup ever again, that's just what it is.
Especially if the next time they draw a cup, if Jurgen Klinsmann's still the coach, he's gone. Whoever's the coach needs to be gone.
Listen, really, Klinsmann's too good of a coach to allow them to flat out miss the World Cup.
Exactly. That's why I think I'm not even worried about them qualifying anymore. As long as Klinsmann is here, he knows what he can do with this team.
I really haven't had that worry for the last 8 years.
Honestly, they did start in 2010. Remember, was dicey for a little bit.
Yeah. Even then, if you really struggle to think that we can't qualify through.
I think they'll be fine. Again, 4 years, a long way away. Hey, Andy, speaking of to change the subject on soccer real quick, do you see what UEFA's doing for the 2020 tournament?
For Euro 2020?
Yes. Do you see the format they're doing with the hosting?
No, what is it?
There is no host country.
So they're going all around Europe.
They're doing 12 cities throughout the continent.
I kind of like it a little bit.
I don't know. Why did you just look around like that, Huff?
Because I heard a cricket here in my broadcast booth.
Maybe the cricket's excited about 2020.
Maybe so. He heard you say that.
No, let's put it this way: if I happen to not have to work during that, I will 100% go around Europe to go watch those games.
Oh wow!
Especially if Rome ends up hosting, like I expect them to host a few of those games, I will 100% be there.
Should.
Since the final, I can guarantee you that the final is going to be at Wembley Stadium for that. Since it's between there and Allianz Arena in Munich. As the two possibilities to host the final for that tournament. But,
yeah.
Well, we've been going for about an hour 25. Does anyone else have? I think we may be wrapping soon.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything good to say before we wrap?
Not much.
Hey, a month from now, I will be very close to Columbia.
Ooh.
I'll be almost back. It'll be a month from tomorrow back in Columbia, which means that we're going to have return of shows very soon on KCOU. August 22nd at 10 o'clock, happy hour with Joe Northern, Andy Humphrey, and whoever else Joe Northern has hired by then.
Probably 2 more people. 6 in the studio with only 4 mics.
So that is at 10 o'clock on the 22nd. That's the debut of that. Big 3 will be debuting at 12 o'clock, right after happy hour on the 22nd. Salute Your Sports will be starting at noon on Saturday the 23rd. I got the time right, didn't I?
Yeah, Saturday 12 to 2.
12 to 2 on the 23rd. And then, Joe, what's the name of your show again?
Cross Country.
All right, I almost said Coast to Coast, but I knew that was wrong. Cross Country will start on Sunday the 24th at noon. This is all on KCOU .fm around the world. KCOU is 88.1 FM if you are in the Columbia, Missouri market. And if you are, good luck to you being there. But that is about a month away, officially a month away from Tuesday.
Wow.
When all those shows get going again. And I will be in a great mood then, fellas. So I'll be back. I will probably it will be about a 50-50 chance of remembering the night before. So we'll be all good. So also good on the lookout for the KCOU Sports get-together with only the sports department the first week that we are back as well.
You're saying that live on the air, by the way, Jeff.
Yeah, they don't know where I live, so who cares?
Good point.
Well,
I'll get the address.
Okay.
No, whatever. All right, Andy. Andy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, we've got a big tilt today at Quick Trip Park. The Wichita Wingnuts and the Grand Prairie Airhogs in the series finale, the rubber game. Airhogs walked off last night to get the win inning, and it's going to be a tough task to try and win the series against the best team in the American Association.
Now that's
7:05. Our starting pitch, our first pitch.
See, this is why Humph is the
There we go.
The not accidentally, but most under the radar funny guy we have at KCOU.
Completely concur.
Nonsense like that. Joe, any last thoughts?
Most under the radar guy, yeah.
Under the radar funny guy.
Oh, under the radar funny guy. Yes, that is true.
Yes. Joe?
Not much. Right, football season kind of come around now with SEC media days this past couple days.
Dude, I've been watching so many hype videos.
Exactly.
I'm not even paying attention.
South.
I'm not even paying attention.
Sad to say, but honestly, the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks are the worst times of the sports year. But it has to happen.
I'll agree with you on that. I will be going north of the border this weekend.
Ooh.
I will be in Toronto.
Go to Canada, eh?
I'm going to Canada. We can hopefully bring some maple syrup home. We'll see.
Yes.
Going, Andy. I'm going to see the Jays and the Rangers on Sunday afternoon from the Rogers Center.
There you go.
I'm actually seeing the Texas Rangers play twice this week.
I've seen the Rangers play twice already this year.
Yeah, I'm seeing the I will have seen the Rangers as many times as I have seen the Mets this year by the end of the week.
I've seen the Rangers more time than the Astros.
Yeah, I'll have I get Blue Jays Rangers and Yankees Rangers in the next calendar week.
There we go.
So that will be fun, and then I'm going to see at the beginning of August, I'm going to see the Mets play in Washington. Now that should be interesting.
That'll be a smackdown, but fun.
Dude,
wait, by the way, did you go to see Philly and New England?
No. It was the same.
You didn't go to the U.S. Open Cup?
No, it's the same day as Argentina and the Netherlands. It's a good thing I didn't go. I would have missed the penalty kicks. And I nearly went last night to Philadelphia and the Red Bulls, but I did not.
Ah, I see.
The tickets were actually expensive. Tickets were $70.
Wow.
Ooh, at Red Bull Arena?
No, at PPL.
Oh yeah, PPL. That makes more sense.
Yes, they were expensive, so I had to pass. Instead, what did I do last night? I don't even remember. It was Wednesday. I didn't do anything. I just hung out. Supposed to do work, but that didn't happen.
By the way, Joe and I are thinking of going to see SKC in Houston on August 29th.
Is that you in Northern?
Yeah.
All right, are you going to do your Taylor Swift bet part 2?
No. We're just going to go to the game, probably. We don't know yet.
No.
You are welcome to join us.
This is, yes, everyone who's watching, join Andy and Joe at Sporting Park.
August 29th.
August 29th.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Kansas.
Oh.
For Andy Humphrey, Joe Leyland, this is Jeff Parler. This has been Overtime Live. Again, you actually enjoyed this. We will probably be back next week. If we're not, we're sorry. We'll be back the week after that. And if we decide to abandon this, which I highly doubt we will, you can listen to us. It's starting in a month from tomorrow, a month from next Tuesday, the 22nd. You can listen to all of us on KCOU's Happy Hour at 10 o'clock Central in the morning. Joe Northern, the main host, will all be on that show, and I'm sure it will be hilarious. Everyone, have a good weekend, and enjoy the worst month and a half of sports, pretty much.
Enjoy it.